Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with the Greenskins, going to be taking a look at a viewer-submitted replay of GRIMGOR Ironhide. You can see him waddling across the desert here. Going to be taking on KHALIDA, very fittingly, for the Tomb Kings here in the desert. So let's get to the builds. We've got GRIMGOR leading the way for the Greenskins, a couple units of Trolls as well as 3 units of Black Orcs and 2 Orc Biggins. So lots of armor piercing with GRIMGOR. You've got the Trolls and the Black Orcs. Lots and lots of armor piercing. He's also got a Doom Diver Catapult, Night Goblin Shaman, and let's look at the spells here. Looks like Sneaky Stabbin', Itchy Nuisance, and Curse of the Bad Moon. Very interesting. It's also got Rusty Airs here, as well as some, Goblin Archers. And that's pretty much it. Looks like there are some Mangy Marauders up in Vanguard as well. Moving on over to the Tomb Kings, we've got 3 units of Screaming Skull Catapults and really cool animations. Unfortunately, I'm not really a fan of this unit. I just don't really find the missile damage to be all that effective. Although certainly against the Greenskins, this leadership debuff, this take cover here, can be particularly effective, especially against units which are weak to terror. Combining that effect with like Doom and Darkness, for example, from Lore of Death from Arcan, and dropping a big terror bomb can be very strong against the Greenskins. You can see we've also got some Nehekara Horsemen here, Lich Priest, Lore of Death, more Nehekara Horsemen over here. Front line is going to be Skeleton Spearmen with some Skeleton Warriors and Tomb Guard up front. Looks like the Kepper Guard as well, yep. And KHALIDA going to be leading the way here. Unfortunately, she's not actually in range of the catapults, at least I don't think, to provide that buff. Yeah, see that Blessing of Asaf, so KHALIDA definitely wants to be standing a little bit further back so that area of effect there is actually hitting those catapults, but it does look like those catapults actually might potentially come into range there, so could end up being pretty solid from her perspective. Meanwhile, over here, these Nehekara Horsemen getting shot up pretty bad. This is a relatively expensive unit of cav. I mean, the Mangy Marauders are 600 points, and the I thought that shadow of that carrion was a Doom Diver there, but yeah, so going to be reasonably cost-effective for the Mangy Marauders to actually just skirmish this out here and trade with these Nehekara Horsemen. You can see the Screaming Skull Catapults opening up shots. The Trolls going to be wisely pulling back here. Trolls, of course, have terrible leadership in general, so they definitely don't want to be getting hit by that leadership debuff. Looks like so far so good, but we should be seeing the results here. It doesn't look like it actually makes that much of a difference, but these Trolls should be reasonably okay here. But yeah, Nehekara Horsemen breaking the side of the line nicely here, kind of exploiting this little gap and getting into the back line. You can see the Screaming Skull Catapults also starting to tear into that infantry line a little bit. You can see the missile damage is just kind of not really there for an expensive catapult type unit. Like, even Bretonnian Trebuchets I find do more missile damage. I mean, the leadership debuff is certainly nice, but this is a pretty expensive artillery battery here, and it's really not doing that much damage at the end of the day. You can see, unfortunately, the Doom Divers, not sure whether they got routed off or just dropped their artillery pieces, but Orc Biggins doing a great job protecting here. And again, the Mangy Marauders being very cost-effective here, skirmishing out and doing a ton of damage to 2 groups of Nehekara Horsemen, so that's very favorable for the Greenskin player, but the Rusty Airs are getting torn through in the center, and you can see the missile damage eventually is starting to add up here. This map certainly is one of the more favorable maps for artillery in multiplayer because of the long distances between the armies at the beginning. But yeah, so far pretty decent, honestly. I don't know that they've necessarily paid for themselves, but definitely racking up some kills. These the Screaming Skulls were also ranked up considerably as well. They're all up to rank 6. You know, on the outside of the battle, but looks like Skeleton Warrior is going to be pulling back, or at least attempting to pull back from these Black Orcs here, and what a shot there as the Screaming Skulls do a bit of friendly fire, but Wah now popping off all across the line. Very good timing as that charge starts to push through, and also gives them a bit of extra speed to kind of chase down the retreating skeletons there. Tomb Guard going to come in to fix these Black Orcs in place, and it does look like we've got an overcast Doom and Darkness there. Heard that go off, so I was trying to stack that leadership debuff. Pretty smart. Unfortunately, the Black Orcs are immune to psychology, and also the Tomb Scorpion wasn't even in a good position to begin with, but the catapults do ride off the Rusty Airs there, which is pretty solid. Unfortunately, the Tomb King mobile units are really struggling to find a home here. Trolls doing a very effective job screening out the Nehekara Horsemen in the back line. You can see the Tomb Scorpions come forward, but the Trolls and Black Orcs are right on station. The Trolls especially will be pretty decent at taking down the Tomb Scorpion, at least before they get terrified, which it looks like they just got terrified, so they're going to go ahead and run away, regenerate some health, and then come back. These Neckar Horsemen finally breaking through onto a good target, routing off some Goblin Archers there, and the, those Screaming Skulls definitely look impressive, but they just aren't doing a whole lot at the end of the day. But Black Orcs pushing through the front line, honestly not taking a whole lot of damage in the center pocket here where they're fighting the Kepler Guard. It's going to be slightly more even, but just in general, the Black Orcs are going to be just munching through this front line here, especially with the Troll support. You can see these Trolls charging in very aggressively on the Tomb Scorpion, and the Trolls actually, you know, they have a 24 charge bonus, they have heavy weapon strike, they actually can do some pretty decent damage to an armored target like that. Meanwhile, this other group of Trolls there seeing off the Neckar Horsemen, great use of their high mass to stop them up. Unfortunately, the Rusty Airs here are going to get compromised by the Neckar Horsemen. And yeah, it's going to be rough stuff, but here comes the Battle of Battles. GRIMGOR pushing through into the backline, very aggressively, going to go directly after KHALIDA. Both of these lords have armor-piercing weapon strength, pretty comparable combat stats, so it's going to be interesting. GRIMGOR's got Get Snick Up and Stand Your Ground, so we'll see if he's able to put a pounding on KHALIDA. Right now, GRIMGOR's definitely taking it, but the issue is, of course, GRIMGOR has lower mass. I really wish they would just significantly buff the mass on GRIMGOR, but he has been able to put a pounding on KHALIDA. But this is the other main issue, is that KHALIDA, because she's on this mount here, not going to have any issues kind of, you know, pulling away and cycle charging, so to speak. So GRIMGOR is just going to have a tough time at this point, especially with this Death Sorcerer kind of pushing him around as well. Or not Sorcerer, I guess Lich Priest would be a more appropriate term. But there he gets a good hit on KHALIDA, not really paying attention, and does get a couple swipes in the back there. But you can see the front line, the Tomb Guard trying to pull back to a defensive position. The Black Orcs, honestly, are getting worn through a little bit there. The Kepler Guard have just about crumbled away, but, you know, we're down to just this one unit of Black Orcs here, more or less. And looks like we do have some big uns pushing through on the flank as well. Trolls doing relatively well. You know, the one unit still relatively healthy, hanging in this pocket here. Not 100% sure what happened to the other Trolls, but GRIMGOR in a little bit of a rough situation at this point. This fight started to turn around a little bit. As I said, KHALIDA's been cycle charging, and due to her higher mass and mobility, she's able to get some work done. Looks like Spirit Leech also going down from the Lich Priest there, but the Lich Priest now does not have the mass to push through Black Orcs. Black Orcs are an incredibly heavy infantry unit, on par with, you know, like Saurus, Temple Guard, and many Dwarf infantry in terms of their actual weight. So this guy's not going to be able to actually escape here, and he's just going to get cut down by GRIMGOR. Black Orcs celebrating their victory there, but KHALIDA's still here. You know, the Screaming Skulls are still firing point blank, and the Tomb Scorpion's also still online. So the Orc Biggins here are going to try and cut through this flank, but the Trolls and other units having some leadership issues. You can see the Night Goblin Shaman not too happy about his decisions at this point, and these Black Orcs also taking quite a bit of armor-piercing damage from this Tomb Scorpion, which still being alive in this late game. It's going to be pretty tough to deal with, but it looks like Sneaky Stabbing going down, yep, on those Black Orcs, putting them up to 63 melee attack. We've also got some additional armor-piercing damage as well, although Poison is lowering that slightly. But yeah, KHALIDA and GRIMGOR still duking it out. KHALIDA still alive, slightly ahead of GRIMGOR in terms of HP right now. She might be able to honestly finish him off here, because GRIMGOR just can't get any hits in because he keeps getting knocked around. And I'll say it again, I really hope they increase GRIMGOR's mass in the next patch. You know, GRIMGOR is definitely, I think, the one old school, you know, kind of old world lord, so to speak, who needs the most help. A mass increase would definitely help, but GRIMGOR does go down there to KHALIDA. Unfortunately, KHALIDA's suffering army losses pretty bad, although taking down GRIMGOR did push back the balance power to very even, and you can see just a general rout going down for the Greenskins. So, although it doesn't look great for the Tomb Kings, they're starting to run out of ammo for these Screaming Skulls, able to get 62 kills, but I'm still not 100% sure that they were worth it. That Doom Diver's still online somehow, and you know, maybe it would have been worth it to dedicate some of those Screaming Skull shots to try and rout off this Goblin crew who has very poor leadership. But as it is, the Goblins are still firing, still flying through the air majestically, and I'm not sure exactly what they're going after. It looks like probably the Tomb Scorpion. A little bit of friendly fire there, but supposing they're able to hit the Tomb Scorpion a couple times, could potentially do some good damage, but that leadership debuff with the Terror from the Tomb Scorpion staying active is going to be very key. But here we've got a unit of rallied Orc Biggins that's going to come in from the side and actually start to silence the artillery here. Granted, it had used up most of its ammo, but yeah, the Tomb Scorpion, the Terror there is powerful, but the Doom Divers, and there's more Trolls coming back from route as well. We've got some Goblin Archers. These Biggins actually came back from route despite the Nehekara Horsemen, which were chasing them. Those Nehekara Horsemen are actually crumbling, but these Biggins are relatively healthy here, and KHALIDA is the only real force in this presence in this area, kind of force, if you will, to be able to stop these guys, and really she's not going to be enough to tie down this entire unit all at once. They're going to get in here and shut down these crews, and as the crews start to crumble, that is going to start to tip army losses more and more. Not to mention the anti-large damage of the Biggins may potentially get a bit done. Right now, KHALIDA's melee defense is keeping her from getting hit too much from any of the swings going down, but yeah, it won't take much to trigger critical army losses here for the Tomb Kings. You can see the Tomb Scorpion is able to terrify away those Trolls one more time, and those Biggins actually do get routed there, so despite everything, things are still super close at the end of the day. The Terror could be the game changer here, despite how, you know, one-sided the balance power is against the Tomb Kings at the moment. If they can keep the Terror routes going, Greenskin leadership right now is super shaky, so last few shots, unfortunately, don't make contact there to proc the debuff, and the Tomb Scorpion as well, not quite close enough. Of course, the Black Orcs being immune to psychology going to be very key here, and the Trolls do come back from route once again, regenerating a bit there, but KHALIDA obviously not wanting to get tangled up with the Biggins before she needs to. It's honestly probably a bit premature, but the Doom Divers do make a bit of contact there with the Tomb Scorpion, but KHALIDA diving into these Biggins here may have been a bit of a mistake. She does take some damage there, and the Tomb Scorpion not really in a position to provide a nice Terror Bomb here. Now it comes in, and now KHALIDA is going to reverse course and come back in, which is exactly what she should do. Just try and overwhelm and tear out away these Biggins, but that Doom Diver gets a couple of clutch shots. KHALIDA goes down to the Biggins very suddenly, and then that's just it for the Tomb Kings. They all of a sudden crumble away, and the Greenskins take home a victory, despite the fact that the Biggins that had just won the battle are actually running away right now. So, oof, super close battle. Big thanks to whoever sent that in. I don't remember exactly what your username was on Discord, but Flying Taco here. Big thanks for sending that one in. Super fun battle with some units and some lords you don't get to see too often. You know, Trolls against the Tomb Kings can be risky because of the Terror, but the armor-piercing damage certainly has some merit there. This just heavy armor-piercing kind of front line ended up working out pretty well here because the Tomb Kings really didn't have any anti-infantry type constructs. Really showed. I mean, the Screaming Skull thing looks nice on paper, but again, the missile damage on these guys, they were able to use up all their ammunition, and granted, they did get some good damage done, but I still don't think it would have been enough. If you were to just trade these guys out for, say, like some melee Ushabti, or even bow Ushabti, oops, sorry about that, it would be significantly more effective. So, but yeah, in terms of the Greenskins here, obviously Black Orcs carrying some very heavy weight, 185 kills, showing that they are the biggest and the best. Unfortunately, GRIMGOR, biggest and the best in the lore, but not actually in game, and hopefully we'll see some buffs. He did do reasonably well, putting a beat down on KHALIDA at one point there, but his weaknesses, which are mainly his lack of mobility and lack of mass, definitely showing through quite strongly there on that replay. So hopefully that illustrates why GRIMGOR needs to be buffed, but Biggins, Black Orcs carrying the day, Trolls doing well, and those Mangy Marauders as well. Kiting away those two Nehekara Horsemen for like half the battle, very key there. For the Tomb King player, I already kind of talked about the catapults. Tomb Scorpion did okay, the Tomb Guard did better in the front line than I thought they would. The issue is that these guys really aren't going to get many kills, so again, I would probably cut all the Screaming Skull catapults for like melee Ushabti or bow Ushabti, and then maybe even cut the Tomb Guard, the Kepler Guard for more constructs or mobility. Chariots can also be reasonably effective against the Greenskins if you can shut down their their mobility, like the Orc Boar Biggins or their high mass Trolls or anything like that. Chariots can be reasonably effective, although Black Orcs, again, do have incredibly heavy mass, so Chariots will have a little bit of a harder time against them, but against most other Greenskin units, they'll be reasonably effective. But, yeah, just in general, I would say you want to probably grab a couple of, what am I looking for? Tomb Kings here. I want to probably grab a couple of melee Ushabti in that situation, or the bow Ushabti, but melee Ushabti, if you really want to go headstrong against the Greenskins, can be particularly strong here. I might even grab a second Tomb Scorpion, and then we're just going to take the one Screaming Skull for the leadership debuff, just because that is kind of fun synergy there to take the Lich Priest with, I believe he just had Spirit Leech and Doom and Darkness, so we'll just take those two, and we're also going to take the Magic Recharge item, that scroll, very powerful, and we'll put him up on the horse. Curse of Kassar, we're going to go ahead and cut that. Might not even remember to use it, so, but anyway, we'll go ahead and tank up on the front line with just lots of bodies here, and at this point we've got a few more points left. We can do a few different things, and the Hekara Horsemen, honestly not a bad pick at all here. They can contest the mobility game reasonably well, so something like this I think would be a little bit more well balanced. I say well balanced, you don't really have as much skirmish power, but you still have leadership debuffs, 2 terror options, and just a heavier frontline presence to be able to cut up those greenskin infantry. Of course, the anti-infantry armor piercing of the Ushabti going to be very key here. You could also do something like, if you really want to go aggressive in the front line, rather than trying to do these leadership debuffs, you could take, like, let's say a Lich Priest Lore of Light, Exorcism, obviously you can cut the Curse of Kassar as well, but Foz Protection, and also in particular this Barona's Time Warp, very large area of effect. I know I talked a little bit about this recently as well, but something like this I think could be pretty solid as well, where now we've got another 900, so we could even take a 4th unit of melee Ushabti, and now we just have this very aggressive rush where we can keep these guys kind of all within the area of effect of a Barona's Time Warp and just buff all these constructs at once. That way they can just tear through the greenskin infantry. Not something I've actually tried, but something I'd be curious to try, certainly. And in this particular situation, you might as well just cut KHALIDA's missile buff, because you don't actually have any missile units, but I would keep the Tomb Strike for the extra terror, can make her kind of a 3rd tertiary terror-causing unit. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.